Hello and welcome back to Waadaplaya Concussion Sub Series. We are back after a long break on the episodes. We've been covering a lot of post games, but we haven't had a guest on our show. We are bringing you a very special guest today, and as you know, our focus is to bring cricket stories, create some content so that you can learn about the game. So today we have random cricket photo guy on our show. He runs a podcast, does a lot of quizzing and does a lot of content on media as well. And also, I hear that he does cricket commentary. We'll learn about it more. He's the co author of Do Different, the Untold Dhoni book. He co authored that with Joy Bhattacharya. Please welcome Amit Sinha, popularly called on Twitter as Random Cricket Photo Guy. Welcome, Amit, to our show.
Thank you so much, Suman. Thank you so much for that introduction. And yes, looking forward to have this conversation with you here.
So we are super excited. Of course, we've been following you for a year or so on Twitter, learning about you. But then, as and when we started seeing the content coming out from you, building a story behind the picture, bringing out the threads of what exactly is the background of the picture, which is quite rare in on cricket Twitter these days, right? Everybody is good at commenting, criticizing, but you bring out a lot of stories. So we're intrigued to know about your background first. Can you talk to us about where did your association with the game of cricket start and why?
When I start telling this story, it will get a little long. So I'll I like to write long threads, so do not get bothered by the length of my answers. But yeah, with my association with cricket, of course, began at my home when I was, guess what, 6 or 7, 6 in fact. We had just Doordarshan growing up. On Doordarshan, Doordarshan, I don't know how many people now know, but yeah, National Broadcaster of India. Growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was not a great lot of content on Doordarshan. So one thing that I looked forward to was the cricket as well as the movies. And I watched a lot of cricket, especially I remember from 99 World Cup. I did watch something before that as well, but 99 World Cup and after that everything, I remember like it happened yesterday. That's how much I loved watching cricket. And it was a very small, portable black and white TV. Cricket was something that I looked forward to, and I would legit take leaves from, I'll not go to school because okay, aaj India New Zealand ka match hai or something like that, and my father would never even object to it. He was such a big cricket fan himself, and we watched a lot of cricket together. 2001 Border Gavaskar Trophy, 2004 India Pakistan Friendship Series, a lot of cricket together, and it was there where my love for cricket began. And by the time I came to college, which was in 2012, I used to think कि boss cricket तो मुझे पता है, because again my father also was someone who enjoyed telling stories, like as fathers do. हमारे जमाने में सुनील गावस्कर ये करते थे, ये हुआ था. Because of that, I did not know only cricketers of this generation, but I also had idea of cricketers of previous generations, right? So even at the age of what, 10, 12, I knew stories about, say, a Hadley or a Botham or a Malcolm Marshall, and that was because of my father. So by the time I came to college, I thought, okay, I know my cricket because I watch a lot of it. I would sit 5 days just to watch a test match. School जाना होता नहीं था. And also बता दूं यहाँ पर on Doordarshan, especially in the first half of 2000s, they would not show the entire test match ka day of action. They would show the first half of first session and the last half of last session. So that's cumulative, what, 3 hours of the day's action. But even for that, I would not go to school. I would watch it, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it, and I was a very keen follower of the commentary there. So a lot of the stories, a lot of the context, I got from there. I had the habit of cutting from newspapers the whatever record or statistics or trivia would be given. I would make a note of that in my file and everything. That passion was already there. I loved the game. But when I came to college, I went to my first cricket quiz. And this was an open cricket quiz. like open cricket quiz means anyone can participate, and I was just a first year student, but I still thought ki अरे cricket quiz है, so I would do it. I was a quizzer, of course. I was a quizzer in school, but cricket quizzing was not something that was happening at that point at school level. So when I went there, I could not qualify. I did not go with a team as such. I just picked someone and said कि यार मैं कर लूंगा, because I had that confidence कि मैं निकाल लूंगा. But I could not qualify for the finals, and prelims में भी एक मार्क्स से रह गया मतलब मेरा. And तब मुझे लगा कि यार cricket quizzing is something that I should be able to do, because I have a rich foundation for it. I have a fairly strong foundation for it. So ये तो आना चाहिए. And उसके बाद से I legit began reading like a madman with the sole intention of winning cricket quizzes. I don't know what happened on that day. My ego, my pride was hurt, because I realized that the amount of cricket that I knew was not enough. Like बचपन में लगता है कि हाँ यार मैं अपने जो जिनके साथ खेलता हूँ उनसे ज्यादा पता है, तो I know. But when it came to quizzing, and when there were questions like, this person's wife missed the entire cricket career of this guy when she bent down to pick her, she was knitting and it fell. So there is a guy called Roy Parks whose career lasted one ball, and this is the legend that is associated with him, because his wife bent down. She missed the entire career because he got out on that single ball he faced. Right. So these are very, very unique trivia, pieces of trivia. I felt okay, I need to know. And after that, I started with, ठीक है, I will like it was a preparation for the upcoming cricket quiz. And it was like कि अगले barefoot तक I need to be good enough to be there, to win it. Barefoot is the quiz जो अब मैं कराता हूँ, right? The cricket quiz I conduct there. So उसके बाद I started reading, and at that point, of course, I did not have like the books, a lot of books to read from, but I read everything on Cricinfo. I read everything on, every player profile on Wikipedia. And again, Wikipedia is a great, rabbit hole sort of a thing. You keep link hopping and all, so you get to learn. It's just not a piece of information. You get to learn or understand the entire context and background behind it. And as a result of that, of course, knowledge about the game grew. At that point, the purpose was to win quizzes, and that happened. Quizzes, of course, I won, and I began to win the cricket quiz, barefoot cricket quiz, so many times that Aniket Mishra, the person behind the quiz festival, he said ki ab tu hi kara cricket quiz. So for like now 5-6 years, I am the one who has been conducting that cricket quiz. But all these years up to college, it was level 1 of Cricket Madness. Cricket quizzing pushed it to level 2, and then even college, now what quizzing did was that it gave me some amount of money to buy cricket books. And that's when level 3 began, where now it was not anymore to win quizzes that I was reading books. It was because I had been brought to that level of madness about the game that I wanted to know everything and anything about it. And also because I had developed a lot of fondness for characters, right? It was just not about key, okay, Michael Atherton is a name. I want to know about Michael Atherton's journey because, because of XYZ reasons. So, uska autobiography kharid liya, ye kharid liya. Read a lot of books. And over the years, that's what has happened. And of course, as I said, that because I require to do cricket quizzes across. So yeah, so I started reading. I started, and since I had to make quizzes. So when you make quizzes, you end up making like one full-fledged quiz is generally of 25 plus 42 around questions, so around 60 to 70 questions, which means 60 to 70 pieces of information that would be new in my understanding of the game. But to find those 60 to 70 pieces of information, I had to read a lot. It's like collecting 120 pieces of information and then finding 60 70 which can be turned into a question, right? So this it was a result of that I began to gather these stories. It was, and honestly, all these stories are from a quizzer's perspective. It's a one line trivia that I can just write that one line and that's over. Of course, I do like to write, so I can turn that one line by giving context and everything into a full-fledged story. So that was level 3. And then I began my career, like, I had done my masters in political science, and but I was very heavily into quizzing and sports. Career started in sports. I started working, I started writing for some website, then I worked with the FIFA under 17 World Cup and a number of organization for work for even the production house that does KBC, other quiz shows, Pro Volleyball League. But at that point, cricket was not happening. I mean, I was not getting a job in cricket. I remember it was one day at office. I was reading, like, again, the job did not require me to read a piece on Wisden, but I was reading, like, I think I have said it, like, I have written it somewhere that at any point of the year, I am preparing a quiz. I'm preparing a cricket quiz. I do not care whether, like, I have been told कि अच्छा इस डेट पर इस महीने में करवाना है. I would keep my questions ready. If someone wants, I will ask. It's if you tell me tomorrow to do a quiz, I would happily do it because I love it. So yeah, I was reading an article on Wisden, and there was a photo of Fenny de Villiers. He was showing, like, what I could not recognize at first what it is. So there was an umpire and Fenny de Villiers, and it seemed like a red card. Okay, and then I realized, okay, there is in 1994 when he was in England, people started booing him because he appealed for like leg before, did not get it. He showed his emotions, and then he took the umpire's red card and he showed it to the people in the crowds. So I found that interesting. I did not put it on that day, but then I realized, यार ये मजा आएगा if I mean, it's just a way to keep my love for the game alive and kicking, because I was not working in the cricket industry. So I started with, that stupid hashtag random cricket photos that make me happy, and I started putting these photos on Facebook. And again, like, it began first with putting photos, then it began by telling a bit about the cricketer or something, and then I figured out that there are actually several such photos where there is an opportunity to tell a story. Okay, and that's the advantage with photographs. They are not videos, they need to be explained, right? Like, if there is a photo of a streaker being hit on his butt by Greg Chappell, so there is a story to explain there is a story to tell there. And it's not the first time that Greg Chappell hit a streaker. Okay, so there is a entire streaker plus Greg Chappell, universe there. So so that photo provides me that opportunity to tell it, right? And so yeah, after that I started posting on Facebook with that hashtag random photos that make me happy. It developed into a page with, which gained some popularity. I mean, again, 12,000 followers is nothing, but at the same time, I just also know that what I was not doing was, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma fan war or something. I was doing something serious which required a fair amount of attention, fair amount of effort to read, right? Like, because I write long stuff, so I know that it's not going to attract a very huge chunk of population. But people who checked out the Facebook page, they enjoyed it, they liked it. On Twitter, of course, I came later, and the idea again on Twitter was not to, write such long things, because Twitter was never meant for this, right? So Twitter was, I just thought, okay, fine, I have a Facebook page. I should also put on Twitter. I should just, put out my thoughts and opinions. Then I started putting the stories on Twitter as well. And then I realized, okay, people have an appetite for long threads here as well. So yeah, that's how it reached here. As I said, like, there are four levels. First was with my father watching the game, then college quizzing happened, then buying books happened, then out of not having a job in cricket, I started doing this. And since then it has been quite a journey for me.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. This is exactly why we wanted you on our show, so that we get the insides of your brain. And in fact, we will test you with a quiz later on before we wrap. So we will see
Absolutely.
how well you can manage that. You did talk about the Fanny De Villiers first post, which probably was the Kickstarter. Is there any thread which did not bring any engagement at all, where you have done a lot of preparation? Which one was that, and why?
One thing that I know for sure is that I do not write because the followers would enjoy it, because If I fall into that trap, I would only write about the big 5 6 people from Indian cricket: Dhoni, Tendulkar, Sachin, Saurav, Kohli, right? So I can't do that. The very reason I run this is because there are so many stories that are not told, and there are so many stories that get told again and again, right? Like even something like Kapil Dev's 175 against Zimbabwe and all of that, they are told again and again. So the idea is to not repeat what's already there. Idea is to bring out something that is fairly unknown, and it does not matter to me whether it gets 1 like or 2 like or nothing at all. I just want to put out a story that I can say, okay, I really enjoyed putting that out. Because, and again, it's not like I have taken one book and uska maine chhap diya. I would go to multiple sources. I would try to get as much information as possible, then put a proper story, proper thread. So yeah, so even this year I had put out a story, and I mean, I put out a thread about, and I knew it would not get a lot of traction because the characters were not people you I mean, again, decent cricketers but not big enough to be to unki jinki story viral ho jaye or something. But yeah, it was a thread about Mark Richardson and Neil Mackenzie. And the photo was about, I don't know if you know, Mark Richardson would at the end of every series, like last 5 6 series of his career, he would challenge the slowest member of the opposition for a race. And yeah, and it started with him challenging Neil Mackenzie for a race series against South Africa at the end of 2003. The photo has, of course, Mackenzie is winning. Mark Richardson is diving to, get to the finish line. There is Makaya Anthony cheering. Of course, the photo does not have any, proper cricketing moment, but it's the story of the two men, which I find very interesting, and how they are sort of, in a way, connected, in the sense that Mark Richardson is the New Zealand opening batsman, played around 34 tests, and had a very healthy average of 44. And he started at the age of 29, so it's not, he played only for 4 years. When he began as a slow left arm spinner. And in the in 1989, when India toured New Zealand, he was in fact bowling to likes of Sachin, Kapil, and Prabhakar. I mean, he got the wickets of Sachin, Kapil, and Prabhakar. So he was a left arm spinner. After a certain point in his life, few years down the line, and he was a number 11 batsman. So he was so left arm spinner, number 11 batter, but he began to get really nervous about his bowling, and he began to get yips. And after that, he felt that, okay, like, he completely lost his bowling. At one point, he was thought of as the next big spinning prospect in New Zealand, but that completely went away. He was very paranoid about his bowling. He completely lost it. And then he converted himself into a, like, first a middle order batsman, and then an opener, and an opener whose numbers look really good despite him having very little, he was one of the most unesthetic batsmen. Even Gilchrist says in his autobiography that he never looked like someone who was meant for the test stage. And Shane Warne hated people who, and Shane Warne would often sledge people who did not belong there. So he frustrated the Australians. So that was Mark Richardson's story. What I liked was how he, from being a left arm spinner, then falling into that phase where he could just not land the ball at the right place, to starting a journey where he ended with being an opener for New Zealand, one of the most successful openers if you look at the numbers. The other character in that photo was Neil Mackenzie. Neil Mackenzie again is an interesting character because initially he was part of the team since 2000, South African team since 2000. And in his early opportunities, trouble with him was that there were a lot of demons in his mind. And he has publicly stated that although he has not been clinically diagnosed with it, but he thinks that what he had was OCD. As the story goes, that he would ask, whenever he would bat, he would make sure that every toilet in the stadium has its lid down and things like that in the dressing room. And there's a story of a bat being pasted on the top of the on the ceiling when he went out and got a century. So he made sure that next time around that also happened. So he was a very like, again, several crazy things about him. And that was to like till 2004 he was playing for South Africa. After which it was a case of, unfulfilled promise, and they decided, okay, I mean, it's not working. And there is a story when in again playing against Australia in 2002. There's a match where he had made it to the 90s. Okay, he was on 99, and he had this very peculiar habit of making sure that when he is taking his stance, his legs would remain on either side of the popping crease. And just when he reached 99, I think it was Steve or Brett Lee who, just while passing, he mentioned that you just crossed your, like, you made contact with the popping crease, your feet made contact, and the next ball he gets run out. So that sort of a personality he was someone who could be manipulated, and of course the Australian took great advantage of it. So, but yeah, again in 2008 he returned as an opener, and till I guess 2011 or so had a fairly successful stint with Graham Smith. So yeah, so two stories there in that one picture. Like, in that picture they are racing against each other, but out there, if you look at the trajectory of their stories, there are such similarities of fighting your mental battles, then going downhill. 2004 to 2008, Mackenzie was nowhere part of the team, and then made a very successful comeback as an opener. Again, like Richardson, not someone who was very aesthetic with his batting technique, but still got runs, effective runs. So that was a thread. I don't think it has even got even 200 likes, but it doesn't matter to me. And it took like a, honestly, pretty much half a day for me to write it, because it was a little complicated in bringing the two stories together. But that was the thought in my head. I saw it that way and I wanted to put that across. So yeah, I mean, and there are several such threads, there are several such stories. Especially, I'll tell you what, like, if the photo is of someone you do not know, people generally would not, like, go on to read the story. So I know that is going to happen. Even some of my favorite posts have this written right at the beginning, that I know it's a black and white photo, and I know most of you are going to stop right here, but I need to tell a story. It's not about whether it's going to get traction or not.
Beautiful message, right? The whole point of us asking, and there was a follow-up question which you already covered the answer, Amit, is what sort of preparation goes in, or if a youngster is looking to tell a story, what are some of the things to keep in mind? I think you bring about a fantastic point that if you have your outcome as somebody should like, somebody should retweet, somebody should repost, and then write a story versus what you really enjoy, if you do your proper investigation and preparation and bring out the content, the outcome will take care of itself. So it's a beautiful articulation of how a storytelling should happen, and somebody listening to how to go about writing a story. Any specific advice you have for the youngsters?
Honestly, just do your research well. Definitely do not go for, I mean, look, I do not know if I have any advice. I just know that it is true for me. I do not want to chase numbers, and I do not think what I produce is content. I just, as I said, that there is a lot of love for cricket, and this is just a byproduct of that love. I have read a lot, and I have, fair amount of things to say, talk, tell. That's something that I do. But yeah, people who write stories, who want to, go into the same zone, do not sensationalize stuff because just to get numbers. Just tell the story in its pure truth. Of course, the language, make sure that it it is engaging, but at the same time, don't sensationalize thing. Don't make, I mean, I do not want to take names, but a lot of people, channels on YouTube, they would like take something small and make it such a big thing. And I mean, again, you how YouTube thumbnails work, right? So a lot of that happens, and yeah, I am completely not in support of it. And as I said, that maybe it's a personal funda. I don't know if other people are looking for numbers, chasing numbers. It's good for them. Of course, they might have a different purpose for it. For me, it's just an outlet for my love. So yeah, I don't think I have any advice, but yeah, make sure the language is engaging but not sensational.
So recently you posted the 40 threads, which is fantastic. And folks who are listening in must read the 40. You will have such rich content. So which one's your favorite out of 40, Amit?
Like, this is just the 40 that I've written this year. So of course, before that, there have been so many stories, so many favorites. But yeah, I mean, good that you asked me which is my favorite from these 40, because otherwise I tell the story of a photograph which I have, I've told that story a number of times. Among these, I think I really like the story of the one that is about Michael Bevan, and how he was an ODI great. And and there is that one photo of him, like the one that I've put out there. People can check it out if you put the link of. It's a photo of him taken right after a test match where he had taken 10 wickets, and I, I think he's the only like left arm wrist spinner from Australia to take 10 wickets in a test, because Brad Hogg didn't do it and nobody before him did it. So he had taken 10 wickets in the test, but in that photo with his man of the match prize, he doesn't look too happy. And again, I do not know what is his state of mind, but based on whatever I have read about him, or in his book, there is that unfulfilled desire of becoming a test great. He was an ODI great. Everyone, like even today, 20 years almost after he retired, you talk about 2000s, you talk about late 90s ODIs, and if you talk about MS Dhoni, there would be someone who would say, "Ha, but Michael Bevan was such a good finisher before Dhoni." Bevan as a finisher is still talked about. He is an ODI great. Won Australia a lot of matches where they looked out in the down in the dumps, right? But at the same time, his test career was a case of unfulfilled potential, and you could see that when he began there was so much, like, he wanted to own the stage. But gradually what happened was that he used to play these very, as I said, very perfect finishing ODI innings, and those knocks pigeonholed him as an ODI specialist. So the one knock that is, again, as I keep saying, and I had put that tweet thread out on 1st January itself, because every 1st January Cricket Australia would remind about that 96 ODI where he won the match against West Indies. That particular ODI is the one about which he writes that, yeah, that gave me, like, that is still my highest moment in the game. But I guess it was because of that I got pigeonholed as a one day specialist. And he believed that he had a lot to offer as a test batsman. His first class average is incredible, and he kept trying till the end. He kept trying till the end, but again, got very limited opportunities on the on the test stage. And that's why you can sense a, I mean, I don't know if it's just me or if it is actually there, but yeah, there is a sense of disappointment in his writings when he writes about his test career, when he writes about his career in general, you know. And you can understand, because I, like someone growing up in late 80s, their definition of an ideal career would be trying to play 100 tests, right? And there have been so many people in the Australian side who have gone on to achieve that. And Michael Bevan in the early 90s was touted as one of those players who would definitely make it big in the test arena. Then again, his problems against the short ball surfaced. Against particularly England, he did not do well. And of course, the Australian gaze is always on which player fares well against England in the Ashes. So all those things contributed in him just not being seen as good enough for Test cricket. And the selectors also moved past him quite early. So yeah, that's one story where I feel, and again, it's one of the many stories. The, like, for me, the summation of that story is that sometimes your best day can be a day which you do not think is your best. Like, the 96 ODI against West Indies, as we keep on saying, that it is possibly the peak of Michael Bevan's career. And but still, Bevan holds such feelings about that night. It was quite surprising for me. And it is true for a lot of cricketers, even Shahid Afridi for that matter. you talk about Shahid Afridi, everyone is going to talk about his, again in 1996, 102 against Sri Lanka in Nairobi. What he writes in his autobiography is that he says, I was never a batsman. I was always a leg spinner and I always wanted to be a leg spinner. And then that one day came when it all clicked for me. And when that happened in your first, like second ODI first innings, everyone thought, okay, here is a great batsman. And everyone then tried to make him a batsman. And he said that in that, pressure, even I tried to make myself a batsman. But at the end of the day, I was a leg spinner who could bat a bit. But because that inning happened, and that inning, completely uh, put me in in a certain league, everyone tried to make an opener out of me. Even I tried to focus on my batting. But at the end of the day, I realized that had that innings not been there in my story, it I would have been a leg spinner with a normal batting career, and not the kind of expectations that were always there when Shahid Afridi walked out to bat. So yeah, so that's what, like, it just, to connect it with the Michael Bevan story. One great day, but it can have several consequences for you.
Pretty powerful way of summarizing why, pictures and there is a background story to it, Amit. Outstanding, outstanding, excellent. So one last question, a bonus one before we jump into the quiz. So give us like a 2-minute overview about the book on Dhoni you co-authored with Joy Bhattacharya. What is it all about compared to other books out there about Dhoni?
Yeah. Very importantly, it is not a biography, and I want to put it out there because people thought it was, but it was not a biography because the biographies were already there. Shantanu Ray Guha had written one, Gulu Ezekiel had written one, and of course, the most famous one is by Bharat Sundaresan. So there are several biographies of MS Dhoni in the market. So, and since the last one, the Dhoni Touch, was by Penguin, so Penguin did not want another biography, of course. They wanted something for a Dhoni fan, who that person to go back to that book, which can take him back to those innings. And so it's a collection of several such, like the best of Dhoni knocks. And we do that because we place every such knock in a context. We tell why or how. Example, Dhoni in his first series had not done much against Bangladesh, but out there in 2000, when Saurav Ganguly became the captain for the first time against South Africa, like proper captain, right before his captaincy, right before his captaincy debut, he said in an interview that, from my experience, so Ganguly was dropped after one ODI, like one ODI in 1992, got a bad decision, and he was not seen anywhere near the team for the next 4 years. From that experience, he learned that whoever I like give a chance, I would make sure every youngster gets 5 matches to prove himself. That's what he says right at the start of his captaincy. And it is so, as if fate had written it. Ganguly's his own form is wavering, like it's going away in 2005. In fact, in the match before that, he had gotten out for a duck. Dhoni had played 4 matches, no substantial returns, and then this was the fifth match at Vishakhapatnam that he was playing. He was promoted up the order, and we know what happened. So again, that's the kind of, putting things into context. All these innings have been put into context to show what this man was made up of. And of course, that's one part of the book. The other is there are people who have seen him from very close quarters, and they have written essays about him. Deepdas Gupta, Lakshmipati Balaji, Sharda Ugra, Dhoni's first manager, the person who, worked with him as his manager, brand manager. So that's what the book does. The book puts together these, like, the stories of these innings, as well as a number of essays about the man. And then again, of course, the stats are there, the photos are there, things that people said about Dhoni, or Dhoni said about people. And of course, what all the avatars of Dhoni, be it his hair, be it his love for bikes, be it the Ian Bell incident, all those things are there. So it's a book for someone who is a Dhoni fan and who wants to go back to those times, to those moments. And that's the attempt by both of us, and I hope people go and read it. So yeah, that's all about Do Different Dhoni. The rest you can find when you read the book.
I'll probably gift one of my friend is a big fan of MS Dhoni. I'll probably gift this book on his next birthday. So thank you so much for that. Excellent. So why don't we jump into quiz? We'll
Right.
have seven questions for you. Let's see
Oh.
how you fare out. We are hoping that these will not be too tough, but let's see what happens. So, who
Hmm.
was the first man of the match of the ODI internationals ever?
So we are talking about the first ODI between Australia and England, 5th January 1971, right? Like this is the first ever ODI.
Okay, yes, that's correct.
John Edrich.
Wow. So you already hit the full toss out of the park. John Elrich was it. In fact, it was a losing cause. He
Yeah.
scored 82 of 119 balls, but because he was the top scorer, he got the man of the match for the first ever ODI. Okay, next, second question. Who was the first Indian to cross 6,000 marks in one day internationals?
First Indian to cross 6,000 mark. Okay. In one day international. Okay, this is
Mhm.
a tricky one. Let me think about it. Uh, can't be. Okay, can't be. Of course, not Sunil, not Krishnamachari, not 6,000. Has to be Azharuddin. Is it?
It indeed is Azharuddin versus Pakistan. It was between a partnership between Dravid. They had 161 runs in the third ODI in Sahara Cup in Toronto. So that's when he crossed 6,000. Excellent. So 2 and 2. Let's get the third one. So here's a trick for you. I'm a spinner. Made my test debut at 17. Andrew Flintoff was my first scalp. Have played county cricket for Somerset and Sussex. And here's the clue, which probably will give you an answer. I played more games than R. Ashwin in the 2011 World Cup.
Piyush
Who
Chawla.
am I? Brilliant. That is brilliant. Looks like this was a full toss for you again. It was Piyush Chawla indeed. So let's go to number 4. Pakistan cricketer Nasim ul Ghani scored 101 against England in 1962. Doing so, he became the first cricketer to achieve a unique feat. What was that?
Century by a night watchman.
Wow. I mean, this is brilliant, man. Excellent. That is exactly it is. Century by the Night Watchman. And I think coincidentally, this is the first ever century by a park batter in England soil, is what I understand, which is again a fantastic feat from 1962. All right, question 5. Which two European nations other than England have played Test cricket? Each have played just one match.
So, of course, like Ireland is one, and the other is Netherlands. Netherlands played a women's test against South Africa. I
Wow,
mean,
that's
if you are
exactly it.
considering that,
Yeah, those are the two,
yeah.
and both of them were actually women's. Ireland versus Pakistan in 2000, and Netherlands versus South Africa in
But Ireland has
2007.
played test against like a men's test as well, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
yes,
Men's test
yeah.
as well. Excellent. So, question 6. Who is this England cricketer?
Okay, now this is tricky for me. No, I can't recognize. What are there other hints? Because like just from the photo is difficult to recognize.
I can give you a hint. He was most recently, his name was put for a cricket ground in England. A cricket ground was named after him. Let me give you that clue.
Oh, I
It was
don't
very
see this.
recent.
Uh, I don't know. Does this look like Ted Dexter? I can totally see Ted Dexter, but is it him? I'll go with Ted Dexter.
Unfortunately, no, we got you there. It is Mickey Stewart.
Ah, damn it.
Yes, and Kia
Oh,
Oval
yeah, this
is
is.
renamed as Mickey Stewart Oval in 2 days
Ah,
ago.
okay. So, yeah, good one.
Great.
Good one.
And the last question, which probably you will hit it out of the park, is how many ways in cricket can a batter get out? The number of ways.
Oof. Yeah, it used to be 10 earlier, but now that there is no more handle the ball is not there, so I would say it is 9 because now handle the ball is in obstructing the field. So So I don't know what answer you have. Do you have the old one or the new one? But I would believe that it's 9 now. So let's see.
It is actually 10. We still see that it is 10 ways that a cricketer can get out. Maybe,
But
we
that's what
learned
I
a
said.
few
The
lessons.
hand of the ball is now no more in a separate way of getting out. So it's 9 now, 9.
Excellent. So you got us there. It was a
Yeah.
brilliant one. So 6 out of 7, Amit. Well done. Really well done. And we really appreciate you making time. This was fantastic. The content we've created is very useful. We learned a lot. And folks who are watching, do check out his Twitter profile and must follow account because you will learn so much. And by watching this episode, you will see why it is he Amit is such a good storyteller. Amit, thanks again for making time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Suman, for having me here. And it was so lovely to talk to you. And really enjoyed the quiz. I can come over for the quiz again and again.
Lovely. We will bring you up in probably 6 months' time for another quiz round, and we'll probably have more questions for you then instead of an
Perfect.
episode. But again, really appreciate you giving us the insights and how do you go about creating so many stories. Thanks again, and for folks who are watching, do follow Amit on Twitter. Thank you so much, and see you next time with another guest. Thanks, Amit, again, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Same to you, Suman. Bye.